think about this one. I mean, FDR, this came up. And the counselor to Special Counsel Smith, Jack Smith's guy, was talking about how today FDR could have been charged with conspiracy against civil rights for his decision to intern Japanese Americans. Now, I'm not saying it was a good decision, right? Like, I mean, it was really, really kind of a horrible time, and we were at war, and it was a different time. And there were decisions made at that time that had to do with national security. So what, you prosecute him after the fact and you send him to jail when he's making a real-time decision? That doesn't seem like it would be fair, right? But let's listen to this exchange happening just moments ago there at the Supreme Court.
It is correct, Justice Alito, but I think that we should also consider the history of this country. As members of the court have observed, it's baked into the Constitution that any president knows that they are exposed to potential criminal prosecution. My friend says after impeachment and conviction, we don't read the impeachment judgment clause that way, but it's common ground that all former presidents have known that they could be indicted and convicted. And Watergate cemented that understanding. The Watergate smoking gun tape involved President Nixon and H.R. Haldeman talking about and then deciding to use the CIA to give a bogus story to the FBI to shut down a criminal investigation.
I mean, Mr. Sauer and others have identified events in the past where presidents have engaged in conduct that might have been charged as a federal crime, and you say, well, no, that's not really true. This is page 42 of your brief. So what about President Franklin D. Roosevelt's decision to intern Japanese Americans during World War II? Couldn't that have been charged under 18 U.S.C. 241, conspiracy against civil rights?
Today, yes, given this court's decision in Trump versus United States, in which Trump versus Hawaii, where the court said Korematsu is overruled. I mean, President Roosevelt made that decision with the advice of his Attorney General. That's a layer of safeguard.
Is that really true? I thought Attorney General Biddle thought that there was really no threat of sabotage, as did J. Edgar Hoover.
So I think that there is a lot of historical controversy, but it underscores that occurred during wartime. It implicates potential commander-in-chief concerns about the exigencies of national defense that might provide an as-applied Article II challenge at the time. I'm not suggesting today, but the idea that a decision that was made and ultimately endorsed by this court, perhaps wrongly in the Korematsu case, would support criminal prosecution under 241, which requires under United States versus Lanier that the right have been made specific so that there is notice to the president. I don't think that would have been satisfied.
All right, well, we could go through other historical examples. I won't do that. Let me just touch briefly.
So, again, I think that the problem that we're having in this moment in time is that they want to have this sort of two-tiered system, right, where they get to use the law as a kind of lawfare. And so that is inherently just a major problem, right, for the country in the here and now, and of course, for the future. And so as I listen to these arguments, and there's been about 3 hours of them, I really think the upshot is that these justices are leaning towards actually acknowledging some of these immunity claims, because you can't have a situation where the next side comes in and says, okay, well, we don't want that person running again. We don't want that party existing again. Let's do everything we can legally to be able to go after them. I mean, this is exactly what we're witnessing, ladies and gentlemen, in real time. Sometimes I say to myself, but why? Like, why him? I think it has a lot to do with him being so different, so much not part of the system. He's not somebody who came up through the ranks. He doesn't play by their set of rules. He's very much sort of, let me look at this in a plain vanilla, obvious way. I don't need to have your buckets and buckets and buckets of intel. Let me just deal with this as a normal human being, because, this is what CEOs do. People in the business world, you know what? You got to make money. So you look at things simply and often very innovatively. But in Washington, you don't care about that. You don't care about results, right? You only care about getting elected. So they don't look at things, or if you're part of the operation, right? You think about just keeping your job. And how frightening is this? I mean, you think about the CIA really not having anything to do after the Cold War, right? Once that was over, like they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs. What are they going to do? They can't fight the Soviets anymore. And that was when you came up with NATO, and NATO started its expansion, and so on and so on, to the point where we're now looking at, well, a full-blown war, obviously, over there, but a new kind of Cold War that's been bubbling up and, well, helping them stay in business. And so someone from the business world is going to say, wait a second, we need to cut that department. We don't need them, right? Like, they're dead weight. And government's like, no, we need more. We need more of them, because they don't care about dead weight. Money is irrelevant. It is something that you can just literally print in their estimation. So the Supreme Court is trying to be thoughtful about this. Look, if you look at any of the media today, I'm not on a limb here. The New York Times thinks the Supreme Court's actually going to go with Donald Trump. I'm reading the headline right now in the Wall Street Journal that I'm bringing to you. Supreme Court appears open to some of Trump's immunity claims. This is the New York Times. Supreme Court conservative majority seems ready to limit election case against Trump. For sure. I mean, I don't think we have the soundbite right now, but it's one of my favorites. Hillary Clinton in August of 2020, so just weeks before the November election, went on one of her friends' podcasts, somebody who used to be on her PR team, and she was offering advice for Joe Biden. Her advice was that you fight it no matter what. No matter what. If it looks like it's close at all, you fight, and you don't give up. And so that's what she was saying going into the election. But when Donald Trump dared to fight it because it was close in some places, then suddenly he's trying to take over the country and become a dictator and this, that, and the other. All right, you see the hypocrisy. You see where this is going. Anyway, the justices, I suspect, are going to rule in favor of having some immunity. And so this is going to put Fannie Willis out of business. This is going to put a whole bunch of people, Jack Smith, out of business. Pretty much most of his case will be utterly destroyed as a result of this. And it leaves us with, Judge Merchan's case and Alvin Bragg and this whole quote unquote hush money because somebody signed an NDA for 130 grand. I don't understand what's illegal about that, by the way. Your friend, David, runs a journalist organization. I say journalist in quotations because it's the National Enquirer. But hey, we should put the New York Times occasionally in quotations too, because the New York Times is the one that was perpetuating and promoting and dropping sort of hints and whatever about Tulsi Gabbard being a Russian spy, right? Like they do what they have to do to go after their opponent. Look what they're doing to Donald Trump. Look at the whole Russia tape thing, right? The dirty dossier thing. I mean, they were reporting on that as though it was fact, day in and day out. CNN was, MSNBC was, and yet it was all bogus. So, hey, those in glass houses really shouldn't be throwing stones, right? So David Becker over there, he is what he is over at the National Enquirer saying, well, I'm going to help my friend. I mean, is that any different than Rachel Maddow putting out a bunch of you-know-what to help her friends? I don't think so. Again, I don't see how any of that is actually illegal. I really don't. But who am I? I mean, I'm the one who said I don't really think it's illegal that he did a deal with Deutsche Bank and he valued his properties at a certain amount, which, yes, helped him get a lower rate on his loan. But Deutsche Bank did its due diligence and agreed with the valuations and agreed to do the loan. And by the way, got paid back in full. Therefore, you have no victims in that case. And yet, they slap him with $500 million in fines because they want to go after his stuff and take his property and try and ruin his life. And then when it gets knocked down to $175 million, Letitia James says, well, I don't trust the bond company. I want his stuff, right? Because she just wanted to go after his property. I mean, it's really kind of sickening. It's really sickening. And I suspect it will ultimately help him win this election, ladies and gentlemen. Win indeed. And when he wins, and I have more on that because I've got a new poll out I want to share with you. But when he wins, he's going to need the wind at his back, which means he's going to need the Senate and he's going to need Congress. He needs as much support as he can get, which is one of the reasons why I've been proud to partner with Americans for Prosperity. AmericansForProsperity.org. You should go there and check them out. On Monday, one of their brilliant policy leaders is going to be joining this show. So we'll talk with her a little bit more about the challenges here ahead should Donald Trump win, the importance of having everybody that you can to really get the kinds of policy through so that, well, we have a better economy, so that we have a stronger border, and so that we're not making reckless mistakes all around the world, engaging in military conflicts that really aren't going to be for the betterment of us and the American people. So AmericansForProsperity.org, I do encourage you to check them out. Just a wonderful group. Sign up. Oh, see how excited I am about them? I'm losing my pen. Anyway, AmericansForProsperity.org.